Director of the National Center for Disaster Preparedness at Columbia Climate School at Columbia University. Jeff, thanks so much for speaking to us. Now, these hurricanes, especially of this strength, they usually only occur later in the year. Is what we're seeing now all due to climate change, or are there other factors here?
Well, there's always other factors that are involved, but these are the kinds of things that we expect to see with a warming climate. And we are seeing the area where the storm formed over the Caribbean much warmer than average. And so for precise storms, exact storms, there's a mix of normal climate variability and other factors. But I think it's fair to say that this is the type of extreme event that we are seeing more of and the kind that we expect to see more of as a result of climate change.
The Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines says the US and Europe do not have the political will to tackle climate change, and countries like his are the ones paying the price because they're not getting the support and the help that they've asked for and, frankly, that they've been promised. What do you make of that statement? Is he correct?
I think there's some truth to it. I mean, the fact of the matter is that we're all being impacted by climate change, and we're all in sort of certain states of either acceptance or denial over this. But I think it is a fair point that there are nations, particularly small island nations, that are particularly vulnerable and are shouldering much more of the burden and much more of the impact from climate change, and will continue to do so without broader global action to mitigate the impacts and to adapt to the types of impacts that we're seeing now and will continue to see and will continue to grow worse.
And Jeff, how do they adapt to that type of impact? And I'm thinking here of countries like Haiti, where Beryl is expected to actually impact. And Haiti is a country in crisis that can't take care of its own people right now, and it is prone to natural disasters. So how do they even prepare for something like this?
Absolutely, and I think that's a critical component because, we can talk about, the hazards and the storms, we can talk about hardening infrastructure, but at the core of that are the systems of governance, how we organize ourselves, how much faith we have in institutions, our access to financial markets and external capital. And so these areas are going to have to be much more part of the center of the conversation on climate adaptation, and are starting to be through some of the different financial funds being set up to look at climate adaptation, because it's simply not something that we can just will ourselves into. We need stronger governance systems. We need stronger governance governments that are taking into consideration climate change into their planning and putting behind it the political will that's needed to actually meet very aggressive hazards that are coming our way.
And what about a country like the United States, where you are? Hurricane Beryl is expected to impact part of that, especially in the Gulf around the Texas area. Warnings put in place there. Are they ready for such a disaster, and more to come, as scientists expect over the next few months and definitely within the next few years?
I mean, to a certain extent, the United States is a little bit better off than a lot of other countries, one, having access to a lot more resources to be able to sort of build resilience to these types of events. It's also geographically much larger. So a lot of these island nations, they're completely affected, whereas larger geographic areas like the US, they're places for people to evacuate to and resources to draw from around the country. That being said, I don't think anyone has it exactly right. I think that there are shortcomings we see. And if you go to Texas, you go to those areas that are under threat, you'll still see them recovering from prior hurricanes from nearly a decade ago and sometimes even longer ago. And that's an important thing to remember as well, too. We'll move on from these storms in terms of our consciousness of it, but the communities that are affected are looking at decades and sometimes even longer for recovery.
Yeah, it's really a difficult situation that those communities are in. Jeff Schlegelmilch in New York, really good to get your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.